The Lord Buddha addressed Subhuti, saying, "What think you? Has the Lord Buddha really attained to supreme spiritual wisdom? Or has he a system of doctrine which can be specifically formulated?" Subhuti replied, saying, "As I understand the meaning of the Lord Buddha's discourse, he has no system of doctrine which can be specifically formulated, nor can the Lord Buddha express in explicit terms a form of knowledge which can be described as supreme spiritual wisdom. And why? Because what the Lord Buddha adumbrated in terms of the law is transcendental and inexpressible. Being a purely spiritual concept, it is neither consonant with law nor synonymous with anything apart from the law. Thus is exemplified the manner by which wise disciples and holy Buddhas, regarding intuition as the law of their minds, severally attained to different planes of spiritual wisdom. The Lord Buddha addressed Subhuti, saying, "What think you? If a benevolent person bestowed as alms an abundance of the 7 treasures sufficient to fill the universe, would there accrue to that person a considerable merit?" Subhuti replied, saying, "A very considerable merit, honored of the worlds. And why? Because what is referred to does not partake of the nature of ordinary merit, and in this sense the Lord Buddha made mention of a considerable merit." The Lord Buddha rejoined, saying, "If a disciple adhered with implicit faith to a stanza of this scripture and diligently explained it to others, the intrinsic merit of that disciple would be relatively greater." And why? Because Subhuti, the holy Buddhas, and the law by which they attained to supreme spiritual wisdom severally owe their inception to the truth of this sacred scripture. Subhuti, what is ordinarily termed the Buddhic law, is not really a law attributive to Buddha. The Lord Buddha inquired of Subhuti, saying, "What think you? May a Scrotapati, having entered the stream which bears on to nirvana, thus moralize within himself, 'I have obtained the fruits commensurate with the merit of a Scrotapati'?" Subhuti replied, saying, "No, honored of the worlds." And why? Because Scrotapati is simply a descriptive term signifying having entered the stream. A disciple who avoids the seductive phenomena of form, sound, odor, taste, touch, and law is named a Scrotapati. The Lord Buddha again inquired of Subhuti, saying, "What think you? May a Sakridagami, who is subject only to one more reincarnation, thus muse within himself, 'I have obtained the fruits consonant with the merit of a Sakridagami'?" Subhuti replied, saying, "No, honored of the worlds. And why? Because Sakridagami is merely a descriptive title denoting only one more reincarnation. But in reality, there is no such condition as only one more reincarnation. Hence, Sakridagami is merely a descriptive title. The Lord Buddha once again inquired of Subhuti, saying, "What think you? May an anagami, having entire immunity from reincarnation, thus reflect within himself, 'I have obtained the fruits which accord with the merit of an anagami'?" Subhuti replied, saying, "No, honored of the worlds." And why? Because anagami is merely a designation meaning immunity from reincarnation. But in reality, there is no such condition as immunity from reincarnation. Hence, anagami is merely a convenient designation. The Lord Buddha yet again inquired of Subhuti, saying, "What think you? May an arhat, having attained to absolute quiescence of mind, thus meditate within himself, 'I have obtained the condition of an arhat'?" Subhuti replied, saying, "No, honored of the worlds." And why? Because there is not, in reality, a condition synonymous with the term arhat. Honored of the worlds, if an arhat thus meditates within himself, "I have obtained the condition of an arhat," there would be obvious recurrence of such arbitrary concepts as an entity, a being, a living being, and a personality. Honored of the worlds, when the Lord Buddha declared that in absolute quiescence of mind, perfect observance of the law, and true spiritual perception, I was preeminent among disciples, I did not cogitate thus within myself, "I am an arhat, freed from desire." Had I thus cogitated, I have obtained the condition of an arhat. The honored of the worlds would not have declared concerning me, Subhuti delights in the austerities practiced by the Aranyaka. But in reality, Subhuti was perfectly quiescent and oblivious to phenomena. Hence, the illusion, Subhuti delights in the austerities practiced by the Aranyaka. The Lord Buddha addressed Subhuti, saying, "What think you?" When the Lord Buddha in a previous life was a disciple of Dipankara Buddha, was there communicated to him any prescribed law or system of doctrine whereby he eventually became a Buddha? Subhuti replied, saying, "No, honored of the worlds. When the Lord Buddha was a disciple of Dipankara Buddha, neither prescribed law nor system of doctrine was communicated to him, whereby he eventually became a Buddha." The Lord Buddha addressed Subhuti, saying, "What think you? May an enlightened disciple thus ponder within himself, I shall create numerous Buddhist kingdoms." Subhuti replied, saying, "No, honored of the worlds." And why? Because kingdoms thus created would not in reality be Buddhist kingdoms, therefore the creation of numerous Buddhist kingdoms is merely a figure of speech. The Lord Buddha, continuing, addressed Subhuti, saying, "Enlightened disciples ought therefore to engender within themselves a pure and holy mind. They ought not to depend on the phenomena of form, sound, odor, taste, touch, or law. They ought to sedulously cultivate a mind independent of every material aid." The Lord Buddha addressed Subhuti, saying, "Supposing a man with a body as pretentious as Sumeru, prince among mountains, would you esteem such a body as being great?" Subhuti replied, saying, "Exceedingly great, honored of the worlds." And why? Because the Lord Buddha referred not to a physical body but to mental and spiritual concepts of bodies, in which sense a body may be regarded as really great. The Lord Buddha addressed Subhuti, saying, "If there were rivers, Ganges, as numerous as the sands of the Ganges, would the aggregate grains of sand be of considerable number?" Subhuti replied, saying, "Of very considerable number, honored of the worlds." The rivers Ganges alone would be innumerable, and much more innumerable would be the grains of sand. The Lord Buddha thereupon addressed Subhuti, saying, "I have a truth to declare unto you. If a good disciple, whether man or woman, were to bestow in the exercise of charity an abundance of the 7 treasures, sufficient to fill as many boundless universes as there would be grains of sand in these innumerable rivers, would the cumulative merit of such a disciple be considerable?" Subhuti replied, saying, "Very considerable, honored of the worlds." The Lord Buddha then declared unto Subhuti, "If a good disciple, whether man or woman, were with implicit faith to adhere to a stanza of this scripture and diligently explain it to others, the consequent merit would be relatively greater than the other." The Lord Buddha, continuing, said unto Subhuti, "Wherever this scripture is proclaimed, even though it were but a stanza comprising 4 lines, you should realize that that place would be sanctified by the presence of the whole realm of gods, men, and terrestrial spirits, who ought unitedly to worship, as if before a sacred shrine of Buddha. But what encomium shall express the merit of a disciple who rigorously observes and diligently studies the text of this scripture? Subhuti, you should realize that such a disciple will be endowed with spiritual powers commensurate with initiation in the supreme, incomparable, and most wonderful law. Whatever place constitutes a repository for this sacred scripture, there also the Lord Buddha may be found, together with disciples worthy of reverence and honor.